G'day.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Reworked Real Talk by Pilbara Real Estate. My name is Bryce Mitchell. I'm the Sales and Marketing Assistant here at Pilbara Real Estate, and the man who needs no introduction, Rob Slater. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me to this show. We've done a few before, and they've been pretty B grade, but hopefully it's a bit better this time.
Yeah, so for a bit of context, if you don't know, Rob has done these bit of end of month wraps for quite a while now, but we want to bring it to a podcast sort of form. No, this is good. We want to bring it to a podcast sort of form, and so each month we're going to cover how the market has changed for that particular month. We're going to talk about some real estate news, and our aim is to educate you in all areas of the industry, from leasing to sales and from residential to commercial. Each month we're also going to try and respond to your comments and questions, so be sure to subscribe for next month, where we're going to dive into what you have to ask. Be sure to check out that. Now let's move on to our first segment, This Month in Real Estate. This is a section where we chat about everything that's happened this month in the world of real estate, with a few prepared topics that we've talked about. To start off with, before we get into commercial market, how has the sales and rental market changed this month?
Well, look, the residential has switched on. Like, we had a good run end of last year, and then went quiet in January, which it always does because everyone leaves town. And then it switched on again. So we had one property, we ended up getting 7 offers, and we sold it at over 10% over asking. So that sort of gives you an indication. If you're getting multiple offers and it's settling above, then the market is on the rise. Not every property is doing that. This was Bulgara, which went very well, which a year ago Bulgara was a struggle. So, different sections move at different times, but overall, I'd say the market's good.
Yeah.
Good to real good.
Yeah, okay. And is that reflected in the commercial market as well?
Commercial has just turned on as well. The last 12 months has seen a big shift in industrial property, rising by about 40%.
Yeah, right.
And then we sold next door, which was an office. Generally, offices are really hard to move. So, for that shifting, I always look at residential as a good litmus paper test of where the overall sort of local economy is going, and it's good. That's good as well. So it's all positive.
Yeah, okay. While we're touching on commercial, this was something we were talking about a little bit earlier this week. We were talking about the differences between commercial and residential. Now, what's really, obviously besides having industrial properties or retail properties, what is the big difference between commercial and residential real estate? 2
things: emotion and GST. So GST is normally applicable on most deals, so it's 10% above asking price, and then you've got stamp duty on top. So it's a double hit, unfortunately, unless it's got a lease in place. So this is a commercial sale. There will be GST on top of the purchase price unless the property is leased and the tenant is paying the GST, then it's as a going concern. So the big fundamental is the GST component, whether it's applicable or not. And the second is that there's less emotion because it's business. You're making business decisions,
Yeah.
Like some of the residential sales you see some unbelievable sale prices, and it was like, wow, they were emotionally attached,
Yeah.
And there was one of my clients actually paid a little bit more for a property. He used to go and play at the house with one of his mates when they were kids. So he bought that house and he paid a little bit more. I reckon he paid about 20 grand more than asking. But that is the fundamental of residential. You buy on emotion, you sell on emotion, and
You're not dealing with as much of that with commercial, or rarely at all.
Look,
really.
you're making business decisions, which a lot of the business decisions are based on. Right, I'll offer you this much. If you don't want it, that's fine. We can't do it, or we'll go somewhere else. So it's more just clinical, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so we recently sold the building next door. Was that sort of process very similar in that regard? Just the emotion was just it's just very quite different to residential.
Well, that one, that property was on the market for more than 12 months, and it was overpriced. They had a few offers already on the table, and all the offers were a lot higher than what the seller, the vendor, wanted. So, bottom line is, if you got a property and it's overpriced, guess what? It's going to sit there. That's it. No matter, even in a strong market, people are going to offer where they see fair market value.
Yeah.
And this property that we sold was advertised for almost $150,000 more 12 months ago than what we actually sold it for. So.
Another thing we talked about earlier this week was affordability and the housing crisis. And we're talking about, this is something you mentioned about the fact that there's still affordable houses here in Karratha. Was there something you wanted to touch on that?
Well, look, it varies on opinion. You know, like people tell me, oh, they've been priced out of the Karratha market, but you know, like you can still buy a 3-1 on a green title, 700 square metre block for $450,000. You know, a little bit more if you want, you know, shed and pool and that. So it's not bad, especially when we're selling properties like that to first home buyers. We sold one to a guy who's only 20 years old, moved up from down south. He's been here 6 months and he paid, paid around $400,000 for an old house, you know, on stumps and that. So there's still you can still get into the market. So there's no real, I don't see a housing crisis for buying. There is a housing crisis for rentals because, you know, if people are on wages, you know, the average rent's almost $1,100. You know, you need $90,000 a year just to pay the rent.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's a hell of a lot. I mean, it's pretty tight everywhere, but I mean, so you know, that's why, you know, a lot of people are getting housing allowances. A lot of people are getting, you know, subsidies. But it's not as bad as what it was in 2011 when I first came up here. People were like renting rooms, and then you'd have couples, you know, or 3 couples all in one house so they could pay $1,800 a week. Right. So it's not as bad as it was. Yeah. But what is noticeable is like a lot of companies, like for us and, you know, a few of the plumbing companies, they've got to rent houses or they've got to buy houses so they can actually hire employees and give them a house. Otherwise, you know, someone's going to come up and most of their wage is going to go on rent.
Something that's different that's in mining towns is the subsidies from employers. It's just such a popular thing that happens because of the high rent and things, but that does affect businesses because it's a high expense to be dealing with, oh, we've had to buy a property, we're paying for this person's rent and things. But I think you mentioned earlier this week that it just seems to only be in those small mining towns.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing is that, you know, I was even talking to local politicians about it. Businesses usually anywhere else, they're not expected or don't have to provide accommodation solutions just to get staff. Yeah. And we do in here, Headland, Newman. Nobody wants to go to Newman, but that's not the case from what I hear.
Sorry if you're listening from Newman.
I've got some good clients in Newman. You know, you've got Emerald, you've got Roxby Downs, you've got there's about half a dozen places in Australia that have this same problem. But this housing crisis, and this is not the first cycle we've been through. You know, we were in this cycle in the, you know, from 2006 all the way up to about 2013. And then prior to that, a lot of people don't realise this, but Rio Tinto brought in the home ownership scheme in the early 80s because at the time the government was telling everyone what you had to pay trades, wherever you are, it was all flat. And the only way that Rio, which was Hammersley at the time, could get staff was to go, right, give us 10 years of work and we'll give you a house. And that was the home ownership scheme. So that's been around for 40 plus years. So what we're going through now is it's repeating itself. You know, it's better this time around than it has been. But you know, you know, you look at the local shire, you know, they've got another think tank. They had a think tank 10 years ago, and then before that, and they're still doing that. And there's only one way to solve it, and that's like have discounted blocks at like $20,000 or $30,000, because to build a house still costs you 900 grand.
Yeah.
And we're selling those houses at 700, so they're not at parity. So to get it at parity, you need discounted blocks and some subsidies. So, you know, you watch another think tank will come in. Yeah, we need more developers and not more investors. That's not the case.
When really the same thing's already happened. And
These
we've had
subsidised
solutions.
blocks. I mean, you have a look at some of the other places. You know, the back of Collie and that, where they couldn't sell all these blocks, so they discounted them, and then suddenly they sold all these blocks and got some development. So
Yeah.
you get a block in Kununurra cheaper than you do in Karratha. That doesn't make sense. not in my view anyway. Yeah, it's, how much further is it? Another 1,200 kilometres, I think. No, it's 2,000.
Yeah, no, it's a fair bit more.
2,000. Yeah, it might as well be Northern Territory.
Yeah. We'll move on to our next segment. Now, this is Hot on the Spot. Now, this is something that I would like to start and continue, because I think it's a bit of a fun segment. Now, I've got 3 questions for you, and we haven't gone through them. And we're going to put Rob on the spot to see what he's got to say. Now, you don't have to give big answers if you don't want to, but I've just got 3 questions here. This first one is kind of a bit relevant for what's been happening in the last 2 months. Do you have any tips about preparing for cyclones for any of our listeners?
Yeah, most important thing is being able to pack your house away fairly quickly. So, you know, you don't want to be searching for a ladder. You know, can't undo D-shackle bolts. So, you know, you just, like my house, for example, I've got a ladder and I've got it strapped to my fence. My D-shackle bolts, I go up every now and again, spray some WD-40 on it. So if I need to pull everything down and pack it away, and the way I pack things is open my shed, which is tiny because nobody's got big sheds up here. And if they do, they don't come up much. Then people worry about mental health. So you get a shed,
Solve
and
more
you just
problems with
Tetris it in and just do bang, bang, and I've got all my kids' toys, and I'll just like pile it in, shut the door. So look, I guess in a roundabout way, just being able to put everything away fairly quickly.
Yeah.
That's it. And the other tips, I mean, you've got this new system now, Watch and Act, and advice and that's in line with the rest of the state stuff. You know what? We just had one recently. I thought the old system was a lot better, but this is the way it is, and the authorities think otherwise. But and also. Just watch out for the bottle shop, because there was a massive line. Did you see? We need to
I
put that
personally
line.
didn't, but I did hear about
this. Tambray Bottle Shop must have had 50 people lined up outside. I've never seen anything like it. You know, don't worry about the supermarkets, but the bottle shops were just in. I've never seen.
Okay, so summarise what you're saying. Have a plan, really, and make sure you buy your beer before the cyclone.
Stay ahead of the curve.
You heard it here first, folks. Stockpile it first. There you go. That's your advice for the people.
This is a Pilbara thing.
All right, we'll move on to our next question. Sort of coming back to the affordability, if you could give one piece of advice to someone looking to buy their first home in the Pilbara, what would it be?
Look, I think first thing is just understand what you can borrow. So you need to go to a broker. Don't go to your bank. You know, banks are not loyal. You know, that's just go to a broker. They'll have access to a lot of different product. Find out what you can borrow, and if you know, they'll give you some clear guidance. And look, have a plan from there. If that means you've just got to stay at home for another 6 months and not go out and not buy anything, and you know, ride your bike instead of driving cars and stuff like that. You know, you need to make sacrifices to do that.
Yeah.
You know. People always talk about the affordability. I remember when I bought my first house, it was like half my mortgage. Half my wage was my mortgage, and that was it. But I was happy. It was all right. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So really figure out what you can buy first, and
find out what your financial capability is through a broker.
Okay.
That was it.
It's a good bit of advice. That's a good bit of advice. This last question, kind of a bit of a get to know Rob. Where do you think you would be if you weren't in real estate?
Well, I've sold outdoor furniture. I've worked in. I've done spud picking on farms.
Yeah, right.
So
That sounds
I'm quite
fun.
versatile.
Jack of all trades.
I wouldn't mind installing pools. No, I don't know. Probably some sort of sales role, being in and around people.
Yeah.
I think that would be it. Like I do have a marketing background, but marketing's very artistic, and I don't think I'm that artistic. I think I can talk to people.
Don't sell yourself short.
And I can dig a hole. And I can adapt. So it's hard. It's difficult to say, but definitely something maybe in sales orientated role, because sales is a unique sort of, you handle rejection. That's sort of something I do. Every no is one step towards a yes.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our first episode of this reworked Real Talk. So I want to thank everyone for watching, and please subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on all the platforms. They'll all be down below. And make sure to please leave a comment for any questions you have for us. We'll be answering them on our next episode. Leave them down below or on Facebook, Instagram.
If this channel gets really good, are we going to do like Patreon? Is that the next step? Is it?
Maybe we can get sponsors. Yeah. But
you can pay per view.
Yeah.
I don't think you pay much.
But we've got big plans. Hopefully at some point we could get guests on at some point. There's really do watch this space, because we've got big plans for Real Talk. But yeah, I'd like to finish off by just saying thanks for a Real Talk, Rob.
Thank you.